Hello and welcome to another episode of Saving Mumbai, the series of podcasts that we do for the citizens of this great city. Today I have with me Girish Mallya, and today with him we're going to talk about a really important topic, which is open spaces for pedestrians, open spaces for runners, cyclists, whoever you can think of. Girish is not only a friend of mine, but he is the only person in the whole world to run the full marathon, all the 19 editions of the Tata Mumbai Marathon. Nobody else has done it. Even the professionals have not done it. So he comes with that pedigree. He is also an active campaigner for open spaces in the city. He is, very active on social media. He does a lot of, face-to-face, one-on-one campaigning. Not as an aggressive, ranty person, but a person who comes from the viewpoint of the citizen of Mumbai. Girish, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Sachin.
So, as any citizen would ask, firstly, how did you complete 19 marathons when there are 20,000 cars running after you in the city?
So, it's quite strange the way I describe. I describe myself as an urban commuter, runner and cyclist. So, I actually run with a backpack or cycle with a backpack. So, I carry change. And wherever I'm going, I would switch to the new set of clothes, meet some friend for a movie, catch some food, whatever, and come back. So I've actually experienced Bombay all through, and I've sort of cycled and done similar stuff in other cities. So I have a folding bike, so I can take it in a train. It's not suitable for flights because it'll get damaged. So I've gone to Goa, I've gone to Baroda, Nasik, Pune. So I've sort of experienced other cities as well. And something which might sound a little strange for most people is Bombay, I feel the safest. Relative grading.
Right.
Obviously, I'm not saying that it's safe, but relatively it's not
safer
than other cities.
Yeah.
The reason is the way I look at it. Obviously, you need to be a good cyclist and good runner. So I don't run, don't listen to music and run. So I take all possible safeguard, wear reflective clothing, helmet, all of that. Gives you that confidence. Plus, you have to be a good cyclist or runner,
right.
And you have to be comfortable with the dust and smoke. So, assuming you have all of that in place, it's not a bad city, especially when there's traffic. Traffic makes things safer. Little paradoxical. The reason is when there is high-speed traffic, whether you're cycling or running, there's greater chance of things swerving and.
Right.
So, if it's chock-a-block traffic, first you feel good because you're overtaking cars and buses.
Yes.
And second is that you feel safer. Yes, you need to take the footpath most of the time, so you need to be very, very agile and very alert. So it is a little strenuous, but relatively safe compared to other cities.
It is this paradox I'm really interested in because even when you're riding a cab or going to work, you feel that, yes, despite the heavy traffic, you feel a little safer because cars are not swerving from one lane to the other. BST buses are not trying to bully you out in the lane. But as a runner and an urban commuter, when you're cycling, what do you think are the precautions? See, you are an expert, but suppose I have to start out. What are the precautions I need to take to become a runner? To become just a pedestrian in the city because of the sheer density of vehicles?
So I would start off by saying that if you're not a good runner or good cyclist, don't.
Okay.
So it's road running or commuter running is not for everybody. So I would not really recommend. It's not safe because cycling, it requires significant skill to manage because it's a lot of start and stop, a lot of unexpected things popping up from different directions. Right. So somebody who's new, or especially somebody who's new to cycling or new to running, it's not something I would recommend.
Right.
Because it needs to be something which you've done over a period of time. I just have the advantage of having done it for so many years. But it's not something I'd recommend. What I would recommend is people get to a park or get to a relatively safe space and then run or cycle there. Commuting and cycling, so there is some amount of danger. So if it's somebody new, I would not really recommend that. Pedestrians have it easier because you get to run on the footpath,
right,
or whatever it's left, or wherever it's available.
Yes.
But so pedestrians have it safer. Running, you have to, even if you try to be safe and try to run on the footpath, it's not really available all the time. And to keep the momentum and rhythm, you're forced to run on the road. Same thing with cycling.
Right.
So it's relatively more dangerous, whereas pedestrians have it easier. Pedestrians have a different set of
Right.
issues where I don't have uneven surface. In spite of the potholes which we complain about, for a runner, it's a nice road.
Right.
But for pedestrians, you have roads which are, you have footpaths which are not appropriately paved. So the danger is more about twisting, slipping, falling. And most of us are zombies with our phone. We're distracted all the time. That makes it unsafe for pedestrians.
And it's unsafe even for senior citizens who are perhaps not even able to navigate footpaths properly as, perhaps younger people like us.
So senior citizens, I think, have a big issue, especially in Bombay. So I would always recommend they sort of take a cab or a place and go to a park. So either a park, or if you have access to a gated community, then within your community. I would never want, especially say my mother, I would not want her walking on the footpath, even if she's confident.
Right. I want to pick on the one thing that you mentioned, which is Mumbai is relatively safer than most Indian cities. But if you have to aspire to European standards of quality of living in terms of running, in terms of cycling, Mumbai still has a long way to go, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Even if there are cycling tracks, even if there are cycling spots where you can park your bicycle, the same evening you'll see motorcycles coming, parking there, people walking on. I remember when in Vienna, I had gone to meet a friend and I was walking on the cycle track. She pulled me back into the pedestrian lane because there, if you're walking on the cycling paths, and if a cycle comes and hits you, the liability is not with the bicyclist, but the liability is with you. True. And you are likely to get fined by the local municipality or whoever the authority is. So there are strict rules and regulations when it comes to respect for cyclists, respect for pedestrians. One thing you may argue is that Mumbai is a densely populated city, and it has limited space. So where do you expand to create all those spaces? You have been running for more than 20 years now. Do you see any policy solution to this when it comes from a citizen's perspective? Just commonsensical policy things. Density of population obviously has gone up. Mumbai metropolitan region today has more than 2 crore people, more than 20 million people. Vehicle population has gone up by close to 4 times in the last 25 years. So in a situation like this, the challenges for people like us are almost insurmountable if you think about it. But given your experience, it looks as if it can be overcome in some way.
Yeah, so I've cycled in France and I've cycled in Netherlands. So these are 2 places where I've been exposed to cycling. I think the comparison is a little unfair because the population pressure.
Right.
Even the number of humans we see when we are in Bombay. So the population pressure is just insurmountable. My sort of philosophy is let's target something which is more achievable in the shorter term and have a solution or maybe an option for both cyclists and pedestrians. I think what we need to do as a community is to at least make it safe for pedestrians.
Right.
Okay. I think cycling is going to be ambitious, especially road cycling. Cycling we could tackle by having dedicated corridors. So whenever we do these long, sea roads and whatever, I think why isn't there a pedestrian lane? Why isn't there a cycling lane? We are sort of discounted. And when you're doing new infrastructure, that should be part of your plan.
Yeah.
And okay, it wasn't done so far. Maybe next time when we do a road, we have those. I think they're planning some 7-kilometer strip where they're going to have cycling tracks. I think that would make it. And the challenge which government or the municipal guys have is that they did a road, they did a cycling track in BKC. It was severely underutilized. Their challenge is we've done this, but nobody uses it.
Yeah.
So it's the chicken and egg.
Yeah.
And also the challenge with India is the cycling culture. In India, there's recreational cycling where somebody wants to do it within their neighborhood. They don't really do commute runs.
Right.
So it's only somebody who doesn't have the privilege and it's out of necessity that somebody's cycling. So, and they are okay with, a commuter cyclist, the guy who's delivering dabbas or even the Swiggy and Zomato riders who use a cycle, they are at par with my cycling thing. So we really don't feel the pressure. We're able to do it more effortlessly, but the common man is never going to get to that level. So my thing is, let's make it safe for pedestrians as a given, and cyclists can be tackled by giving corridors.
Right.
So certain roads, certain sections, or without traffic, the service roads on Eastern Express way. I think that's a really good track where you could actually give it from 5 o'clock in the morning till 12 on Saturdays and Sundays. Making it, instead of, let it be a year-round activity.
Right.
And let's build that momentum, because today I think the challenge is also kids, right? You want your kids to go out and play and cycle and run.
Yeah.
And these sort of spaces, at least, the weekends are available for those things.
One of the things that we, as quote unquote elites, not think of is livelihoods using bicycles. You mentioned riders who are delivering food, the dabbawalas, for instance, the famed dabbawalas who are there everywhere. Even they are finding it difficult to park their bicycles, or to take the bicycles from a densely populated area to another densely populated area. So it is not just about recreational, cycling. Livelihoods, thousands of livelihoods depend on creating these safe spaces for cyclists. And when you mention that these corridors need to be created, are you saying that in a city like Mumbai, where most of the wards are populated in terms of 30,000 plus people per square kilometer, which makes it one of the densest cities in the world in terms of population, creating those spaces might become an equally citizen-led initiative as much as it is a BMC led initiative. So where does that confluence take place? You have been campaigning, for a long time now. What are the hurdles you see, and how do you overcome those hurdles?
I actually see whether it's the state, the government or the BMC actually being reasonably receptive to ideas. As in, I'm talking about last 2 or 3 years. They've been sort of receptive. That's my, perception. That's my experience. The only thing lacking is sustainability. It's just experiments. We've never gone into a permanent rollout or a long-term plan.
Right.
It's always been experiments. Happy streets, Sunday streets, whatever they call those concepts. They've just been tried for 3 months. It's why can't we have Kala Ghoda or even the entire fort a vehicle-free zone on Sundays?
Right.
Entire Sunday. You create just, from the sides where you can enter, make spaces where people can actually walk safely.
Yeah.
And the entire road is available to them. If, just like, for example, as a Bombay marathon runner, I enjoy Bombay, one day of the year. Why can't my fellow citizens enjoy 52 Sundays?
Right.
Just give South Bombay, it shouldn't be a South Bombay phenomena. Every, Warsaw could have, every neighborhood could sort of designate one section which is more or less, vehicle free.
Yeah.
Those are more achievable ideas. Coming back to your question about, I think the cyclists who are serious cyclists or who are cyclists like me, within traffic, the density does not really impact us.
Okay.
It's only the recreational cyclists who have a problem. Don't want to sound elitist in that sense, but I think the recreational cyclists need specific area zones where they can cycle safely.
It's also because of experience, right? I mean, it comes from experience, it comes from training.
Correct.
So you may be more aware. I mean, the situational awareness is much, much greater in your case than a person who's trying it out for the first time or the second time.
Yeah.
The other question, which is an offshoot of what you mentioned, is because children these days do not have access to open spaces that you and I had as children, 30, 40 years ago. And because they're, glued to their video games or their mobile phones or their YouTube, TV screens, etc. Even if I want to push my child to run or to cycle in an open space, as a parent, I will feel hesitant about it, primarily because of the safety concerns. And I may not have the time to go with her or him because I'm at work, right? So there are these multiple questions that a parent will face. But like you said, there are commonsensical solutions to get this done. If the BMC and perhaps citizen-led organizations, which are localized groups, they come together and create these safe spaces for children. Perhaps from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock every evening, no car may come on this particular street or whatever the case may be. Is that feasible in a city like Mumbai?
Those are during weekdays. It's very tough, to be honest. My thing is, for example, I live in Devnar.
Right.
Recently, because I run, I've been running around the neighborhood. Earlier, I would only use the highways. Now, I would be running in my neighborhood. I've discovered so many parks.
Okay.
So the parks, the infrastructure is there, and those are quite safe. The only thing is, how do we extend ours? My thing is, parents have different schedules now with flexible working and all of that. Schools are also, have different staggered timings and all of that. My thing is, why can't parks be open and where the perception is also there, the reality is also there, where it's absolutely safe.
Right.
Where, a single woman, single senior citizen could come and not feel sort of. So if we can create that as a community, along with the municipal authorities, because the infrastructure, the land is there.
Right.
Just, keep it safe, keep it paved, regular audits kind of thing. I think I've seen 2 parks which are there. There are certain, neighborhoods where there are buildings which are, sort of not functional, as in the building is there, the compound is there. Those could be taken and, sort of leveled. So we find more spaces and keep them safe and sort of make it at least, if not 24 hours, at least till 12 and then till 4. So maybe rest period of that, and then create those. I think those are more achievable ones, and focus more on pedestrians. I think cyclists or runners get more priority. I think the focus should be pedestrians. The numbers of cyclists and runners are, as in disproportionately, we get more airtime. We are actually taking a risk, right? As in, to be honest, as in regarding the Palm Beach incident, where a fellow cyclist lost his life recently. As in, I've been on that road. It is extremely scary because it's high-speed traffic. There are bikers, there are cars which are doing 100 plus with ease. My question to the authorities is, why aren't they sort of finding those guys?
Right.
Keep a lower speed limit. Keep finding them, just like you do. We never have that problem now on the expressway. We don't have it on the Sea Link. Is because of the 1,000 rupee fines which automatically get triggered. Do those, I'm telling you, 1,000 rupee fines are the perfect solution.
And
just slow down.
And there are disincentives enough for people to say, let me just stop here. So,
and Palm Beach Road, for example, can have sections. Abroad, when we hear these stories of city makeovers, it's not the car lanes being expanded. It's the walking lanes being expanded. We believe if you create more roads, there will be more cars to fill them up.
But in the last 3 to 4 years, especially 2 years, given the fact that there have been no elections with the BMC, there are no corporators to represent us in our wards, and it is run by the administrators led by the municipal commissioner. The feedback loop that we used to have with our corporators is completely closed now, because the corporators themselves don't know whether they'll go back to the session and they will represent us or not. They have no idea, right? In such a situation, such a limbo situation, how do you think a citizen can get involved in getting these things, getting the dialogue started? Do you think that I, as a citizen, can approach the local municipal office and not going to the additional commissioner and the joint commissioner level, but going to the local assistant commissioner, ward officer level and say, Mr. So-and-so, can you help me give a cycling track or a pedestrian walkway for my senior citizens in the locality, just to feel safe? Is that Is that a possible commonsensical solution?
So I think that's not likely to happen till we have full-time corporators back. But what can happen is what has happened is that you have people, as in who are aspiring for political ambitions, or the corporators who are wanting to contest. They are very active.
Right.
Because all of them are building a base because they want to be re-elected. So there's a lot of competition and everybody is into one-upmanship and everybody can take up a lot of initiatives. So if you sort of collaborate with somebody who's a potential contender, there are enough and more options to sort of do things, say a park, make the park better, safer, and you can easily crowdsource. I'm not even saying that you need to draw money. It's easy. Making it safer, making it cleaner, appointing an extra security guard, just like how we do it in our societies.
Right.
We sort of do it till somebody else can fund it. It's okay, as in it's small money and it's your space.
Light up the place. So
we
that
adopt
people
it.
say,
My thing is adopt it. Somebody pitches in with a solar solution. There are simple solutions. We should not push it on the government or for everything. Right? It's our space where our people are going to sort of be there. Let us do it, and it'll sort of, and people will talk about it. Right now we have social media. Imagine if Devnar were to do a nice thing, it'll get amplified. It creates FOMO in other localities. Or they'll sort of genuinely get inspired, whatever the motivation. I think that's very doable. It can be a rage. Imagine, and then you have contests. You can do anything. You can just my thing is, we should not go back to the government or for everything, right? These are more citizen-led initiatives where it will work better, because where we actually make it safe and not just talk about making it safe.
The Carter Road experiment in Mumbai, for instance. I mean, it's people created a safe space for themselves, and these are people using ALM mechanisms in Bandra. They got together and they got it done. So even a small thing like dogs pooping, and they said, no, we will fine you because it is a place where people walk. Pick up your poop, pick up the poop after your dog. And people made it happen. It didn't require a policeman to stand there or a municipal officer to come and enforce it. People did it themselves. But this kind of civic involvement or civic sense, so to speak, also requires a bit of a mindset change, because no matter which area or locality you go, say, nahi yaar, BMC ne humko diya nahi, right? So this thinking or this kind of conversation is quite prevalent in various parts of Mumbai. So I'm saying that to overcome that challenge itself is it a citizen-led thing, or is it the BMC saying no, you guys do it and we will support you in whatever way? In your interactions with them or in your interactions with other citizens, do you think that this is doable?
So I think it's more. I think citizens sort of need to take the lead on this one, because there are a lot of softer issues which are involved. So for example, the beat marshals or whatever, the anti-spitting marshals or whatever. I think that is not the solution. As in, it's not. My thing is, we need to make it so clean that you're embarrassed. Like, why don't you litter in a
metro station?
Why? Because it's just spick and span. And if you make it spick and span, I think there's enough psychology-led research which tells you that you make it so clean that people are embarrassed, and people just look at you that you've littered. So you sort of take pride in it and keeping it. Just keep it really clean, and you can keep it instead of getting into the fine mode. So cultural changes, we are never going to be Japan. So, I might do it individually. I might inspire you to do it individually. That we take our own litter and we take it home. It's never going to happen in India. We have to discard. The other option is, have dustbins everywhere. The typical solution I hear is have dustbin every 500 meters and then the problem will be solved. I'm saying people are going to litter. The main thing is we clean it maybe twice a week, twice a day, sorry. Once a day is when the municipality does it. Once a day is, the second time is privately funded. Let's do that. Let's make it so clean that I'm saying there'll be a 50 to 80% drop in the littering that we do. We just need to clean it more to get to a certain level where people see it clean all the time.
And that builds into the pedestrian ecosystem, right? I mean, I don't need, there are already, large footpaths. I mean, where I stay in Dadar, there are these large, wide, 15-foot footpaths, and there are motorcycles parked everywhere. So even for us, my mother, for instance, will find it difficult to walk on those really well-paved, elite footpaths because there are, bikes coming from another direction. And it's also a problem of how roads are designed. So the reason that bikes come from the opposite side of the footpath is because if they have to take a U-turn, they have to go a kilometer away and then take a U-turn and come all the way back to cross 100 meters to the next building, right? And if the design of the road was such that every 200 meters they could take a U-turn and enter their, specific locality, this thing would not have happened. So it's a question of designing solutions for pedestrians and creating that ecosystem that you mentioned. Littering is one, dog poop is another.
The other one is fining for wrong side driving, getting onto the footpath with your vehicle. All of those are, I think, bigger challenges that we have. So that's more, I think, fining should solve most of those without any other sort of whip.
But when you go to a city like Singapore, for instance, you mentioned Japan. I mean, the culture is different, of course. But you go to a city like Singapore, and I remember there was a T-shirt that used to get sold in Singapore. Singapore is a fine city because you get fined for chewing gum, you get fined for littering, you get fined for dropping something on the street. So that is one model which they followed, and then the mindset perhaps built up over a period of time. Japan is a completely different culture altogether. I don't think we can even aspire to do that.
It's a nice model to look at, and that's about it.
But even if you go to, a lot of Indians go to European cities, right? I mean, and they behave really well in those European cities. All of us, we stand at a red light. We walk when the green light comes in. We will walk on the proper pavement. But is it a problem of, I don't know, ghar ki murgi dal barabar types, that, you come back to India and you come back to Mumbai and say, nahi, I'm okay with littering out here.
So I'll give you a thing. I think it's hardwired. To give you an example, I know people who've driven in US for 25 years. They come back to India. It's almost like a ex-smoker suddenly picks up smoking. So the belief is that things don't work, as in nobody obeys, why should I?
Right.
So it's then it becomes a free for all. So the problem is, in India, you can never fine with a human. So then there's bribery.
Right.
Okay, because if you fine too much, then there's more potential to bribe. So my thing is, it has to be automated to a certain extent. I think we can find cost effective. I think just fining indiscriminately for anything which can be fined, right? As in vehicles can be fined because there's a number which can be tagged.
Right.
You can't fine a human being for jaywalking in India even if you want to, because a machine can't do it unless we move to the China model where face recognition and sort of tagged to your Aadhaar. Might happen, but unlikely.
Yeah.
So you can't do anything to humans. So my thing is, if we can get the traffic bit fined in a more cost effective, because you don't need really fancy equipment, just smartly placed cameras which are done on scale.
Yeah.
And sort of Bombay does it first, or one neighborhood does it, and we fine, and people will stop. So the wrong side riding, all of those, it just doesn't need to be speed ones. It could be any traffic violation which is caught, and you sort of use AI tools to sort of fine.
Yeah.
So I think AI might be helpful
right
here to recognize where the offences are happening, and it could be very different, varied offences which could.
And from the chats that I had with private players, they're willing to cooperate and collaborate with the BMC.
Yeah, a philanthropic body could easily fund if it's something
because there's enough and more data with Bloomberg, with WRI, which is the World Resources Institute, philanthropies. Bloomberg Philanthropies, for instance, does extensive research on pedestrian movements. But using that big data, you got this CCTV ecosystem in place. There are more than 20,000 CCTV cameras in Mumbai. You use that data, use machine learning, use big data analysis to find out what are the kind of offenses that are taking place, which are the areas that are more prone to
or accidents, deaths, whatever,
and use that to create localized solutions.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
It doesn't cost too much. It doesn't need some big political will for this.
Yeah, and you're building on the existing infrastructure. You're not creating new and spending hundreds and more crores on such things. So I want to circle back to we have limited time left, but I want to circle back to the pedestrian ecosystem. So I'm saying that if going by your experience, you're saying that using the pedestrian as the ideal customer, so to speak, for this change to happen. Are you saying that if we solve it for the pedestrians, then maybe the other situations can be resolved?
So I'm saying you will see order automatically.
Right.
If you take care of pedestrians, you'll see a lot of other problems getting solved. More people coming out, walking, picking up, and then you'll feel comfortable. Here you're not comfortable walking.
Right.
Running is sounds like a dream, and cycling even more because there's more technical gadgets and speeds involved. So I'm saying if you can't solve walking, there's no question of running and cycling because that comes much later.
Right.
So I think our focus should be pedestrians, make it safe, make it good, make it more accessible, and more opportunities, more places, and not just experiment. We just should try a few things and then roll it out citywide.
And instead of doing it like a holistic citywide thing as an ambitious plan, do it localized and maybe
multiple models. Just experiment, find the success stories, then scale it.
Okay. Girish, thank you so much for this illuminating conversation. I had a great time. I hope you did too.
Pleasure.
So with that, we come to the end of this episode. Hope to see you in the next. Thank you.